Open source software projects dominate the world's technology infrastructure today. In this lesson, we will consider some of the most successful examples and long-standing examples of open source software projects. We begin with the Linux kernel, which began in 1991 as Linus Torvalds' student project. It has been under an open source license, the GPL, since its earliest days. Almost all the world's computing infrastructure now is based on Linux, 100% of the world's supercomputers, for example, as well as the largest number of mobile devices, since Android is based on Linux, and in fact is Linux in terms of its kernel. You will find Linux in an enormous range of devices, such as medical devices, other embedded products, probably whatever you're using in your home entertainment systems, as well as personal fitness devices such as Fitbit. There's a very large and mature development community of literally many thousands of developers. The pace of development is extremely rapid. New versions come out every 10 to 12 weeks, and thousands of lines of code are added or removed every single day. The Git distributed version control system arose out of the Linux project in 2005 as the project really scaled to thousands of developers in a very frequent pace. It is specifically designed to work with a very distributed and far-flung group of contributors. GitHub, which hosts literally millions of products, is entirely based on Git. There's no requirement that you have to have an open source project to use Git. It can be used in proprietary projects as well in private repositories. The Apache web server began in 1995, and today it's the most widely used web server. It's produced by the Apache Software Foundation and released under the Apache Software License, which has been used by many other projects. It's a more permissive license than the GPL, which is the so-called restricted license. It's very hard to overestimate the importance of Apache. There are many sub-projects and related projects that are found in every corner of the international infrastructure for computing. Various computer languages are developed using open source techniques. Languages such as Python and Perl and Ruby, etc., are developed in an open source method. Languages like GCC, like C I should say, are developed by international standards bodies, but then the implementations are developed in open source methods. So for C, for instance, you have both GCC and the LLVM project releasing compilers. Tech and LaTeX began in 1978 as a project by Donald Knuth, who is a very well-known computing science professor who is extremely respected for his development of algorithms as well as tech system. It's actually a typesetting system. It's much more than a word processor, but it's still used to produce many documents, books, slides, talks, especially in the academic community. There's an extremely active and very large community constantly inventing new extensions to tech, as well as international support for languages, etc. The Free Software Foundation is in charge of the GNU project, where GNU's not Unix, and many of the essential ingredients that people use every day come from the GNU project, including GCC, the compiler, the debugger, GDB, glibc, which is a library that almost all programs have to use, Bash, which is the command line interpreter we will talk about in detail later, and core utils, as most of the basic command line programs system administrators and developers use every day come from this project. Without the GNU project, Linux would never have been able to develop at the pace that it did. The windowing and desktop interfaces people are used to using, for instance, on Linux systems, as well as other systems such as FreeBSD, are developed in an open source manner. The X Windows system and the desktop environments, GNOME, KDE, FCE, and others are all developed using open source methods. There are many other widely deployed projects which are developed openly with open source methods. In particular, OpenStack and Kubernetes are extremely widely used in very hot projects today. And then we list some of the others, such as ONAP for networking, Hyperledger for blockchain, etc. So that's just a brief list of a few of the very long list of open source projects that are using the methods we are talking about here.